you got all of these meanings going on in this museum. And both of these bioethic issues are about the lack of informed consent.
Today, you will have the opportunity to digest a centuries-old dilemma, and that is medical exploitation and unethical practice on vulnerable or otherwise at-risk communities, with the help of Dr. Tiffany Willoughby Herard, LEAD-AVC faculty at the University of California, Irvine, and Dr. John Till Robinson, curator and assistant professor at Tuskegee University in the Tuskegee Legacy Museum.
So you need to know that story if you don't know that story, because both these exhibits are bioethic breaches. So when you come off of the elevator on the second floor of the museum, you are confronted with these two exhibits. On the left, on the right-hand side, is the United States Public Health Service Untreated Syphilis Study in the Negro Male in Macon County, Alabama from 1932 to 1972. And then on this side is the patient, the project, and the partnership, mass production and distribution of HeLa cells at Tuskegee University. So there are two exhibits upstairs.
So why do you think the Clinton administration prioritized public health and medical bioethics at that particular moment? Was it a result of the advocacy or?
James A. Ferguson, who was dean of the School of Veterinary Medicine at Tuskegee, put together, created a legacy committee. They pressured the Clinton administration to make the apology. They didn't want to.
In the annals of medical history, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study stands as a haunting reminder of ethical failures and the importance of informed consent. Let us shed light on the key role players and the reasons behind their involvement in this notorious study. The United States Public Health Service. A primary sponsor and orchestrator of the study, motivated by a desire to understand the natural progression of syphilis. They aim to observe untreated African American men to trace the disease's long-term effects. Tragically, they chose to prioritize research over the well-being of their subjects.
Syphilis is a disease of the blood. It's a virus that gets in the blood. So here we have these people going to these doctors with these chancres and sores. And they are telling them that nothing is wrong, they only have bad blood. I mean, it is just, it's inhumane.
Although they were under the impression that they were aiding the community, the Tuskegee Institute, a black college in Alabama that collaborated with the USPHS, the Institute's involvement brought the study into the community and provided facilities for examinations. The USPHS's modern successor, which inherited the legacy of the study, the CDC played a role in revealing the study's ethical violations to the public in 1972, leading to its eventual termination. To further justify their actions, the United States Public Health Service, aided by propaganda, perpetuated false narratives, claiming that the study aimed to benefit the African American community. But behind the facade, their true intent was to observe the untreated progression of syphilis. Miss Evers' Boys is a powerful play and movie based on the Tuskegee syphilis study. It centers around Nurse Eunice Evers, who faced a moral dilemma as she witnessed the unethical treatment of the study participants. The story explores the complex emotional toll on those involved in the study. On the other hand, The Truth, Red, White, and Black is a Captain America graphic novel inspired by the Tuskegee syphilis study. It presents an alternate history where African American soldiers were used as test subjects to recreate the super soldier serum. The story delves into the injustice and consequences of these experiments, reflecting on the real-life horrors of the Tuskegee study. Both narratives shed light on the darker aspects of medical research and the lasting impact on marginalized communities. During the Tuskegee syphilis study, the most heinous acts included the deliberate withholding of treatment from 399 African American men infected with syphilis, even after penicillin became available and could cure them. These men were deceived and denied informed consent. Their human rights were violated, and their suffering extended for 40 years, all driven by racism and unethical pursuit of scientific knowledge. It remains a shocking reminder of the grave consequences when medical research ignores ethics and the dignity of its subjects. Henrietta Lacks was an African-American woman whose cancer cells, known as HeLa cells, were taken without her knowledge or consent in 1951. These cells proved to be remarkable, immortal, and contributed immensely to scientific research, leading to groundbreaking medical advancements. However, Henrietta Lacks herself did not benefit from this discovery, and her story raises significant ethical questions about informed consent and the use of human tissue in research.
The mass production and distribution of HeLa cells at Tuskegee University, because Tuskegee was a part of a protocol in the 1950s that mass produced and distributed the cells, the interminable cells of Henrietta Lacks. So they took Miss Lacks's cells without her permission and sent them all over the globe. And what we know is that
Here are some of the major scientific contributions of HeLa cells up until 2021. The development of the polio vaccine, cancer research, gene mapping, in vitro fertilization, HIV research, cloning, drug testing, understanding cell biology, tissue culture techniques. Throughout history, vulnerable groups such as minorities, prisoners, and the impoverished have been subjected to exploitative medical practices without informed consent. The Tuskegee syphilis study, Henrietta Lacks, and countless others exemplify the dark consequences when ethics are overlooked. Unethical practices not only violate human rights, but erode trust in the medical profession. The exploitation of vulnerable patients perpetuates health disparities, deepens societal divides, and hinders progress in medicine. As future doctors, you hold a responsibility to uphold the principles of autonomy, beneficence, and justice. Understanding these historical mistakes empowers you to prioritize the welfare of your patients, ensure informed consent, and maintain their trust. By learning from the past, you will champion ethical medicine, bridging the gap in healthcare access and delivering compassionate care to all. Remember, medicine is not just a science, but an art that requires integrity and empathy. Your actions will shape the future of healthcare for generations to come.
Science, like, what does it mean for Black children? Like, what does it mean for the next generations if that's the place that we're starting from?
So the museum has multi-layered meanings. Not only is it an outgrowth of the official apology of President Clinton, but it is But layered on top of that is that it was an infantile paralysis unit. And if you had polio in the 1940s, and the building was constructed in the 1940s. If you had polio in the 1940s, it was the only place, if you were a black child, teen, or tween, that you could go in this vicinity for help.